Good evening. It's good to see all of you here. I can see all of you through the camera. And thanks for being here. I'm really excited about tonight's performance as we continue our series of live stream concerts here from Hopper Piano Company. And this place is very special to me. I spent a lot of time here as a piano student growing up, and I still spend a lot of time here, and I'm very happy about that. It's truly a community organization which not only sells incredible instruments, but supports the arts in really, truly amazing ways, such as these. So we're very thankful for that. Also, I would like to thank all of our sponsors this past year, particularly the Johnston County Arts Council. And if you go to claytonpianofestival.org, you can see all of the saints who donated to our concerts this past year. And they truly are saints, because without them, none of this would be possible. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you feel so inspired to give a donation of any size, you can do so on our website by going to the PayPal link, or in the description of this video, there is an address if you would prefer to send a check. So this space that I'm in right now, this is very special to me, and also the performer is very special to me. Someone whom I've known since I was a teenager, since I really started getting serious about the piano, and something of a mentor to me throughout the years. Ketter is truly a special artist and an incredible pianist. So, Craig, welcome to Hopper Piano Company.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So I realized that, unfortunately, I'm making you miss the NFL draft.
Oh, that's
tonight.
Very tragic.
Yeah. And so thanks for being here despite that. Who's your team? I know it, but they don't.
Steelers.
Steelers, yeah.
And I'm very happy with the pick last night of the Najee Harris running back. So.
Okay, because their running game needs work, right?
Last in the league last year.
All right, well, that's, it is what it is. So I think, like, in a way, like, you're kind of an enigmatic musician, because you enjoy things like football.
Yes.
And bodybuilding. You're in the gym a lot. You were in the gym right before we actually drove to North Carolina,
That's right,
which
yes.
I found inspiring, because I was going to do that, but and I'm sore. But also, I was telling someone the other day, I was trying to describe you as a musician. I was saying, maybe Craig is even more of a piano nerd than I am.
People that know me well, I can geek out on the phone for hours.
Yeah, just about specific things relating to the piano. So do you think that's conflicting in some way, or do you feel like that's just a natural thing for you?
No, it's natural. It's definitely natural for me. Yeah.
So. I feel like tonight's composer is pretty much a one-composer program.
Yeah.
Often, musicians who specialize in Franz Schubert, or maybe I don't want to give them a bad name, but maybe a little more on the nerdy side. But you love Schubert. What do you like the most about? Like, what speaks to you most about his music?
Well, I've worked a lot with singers over the years, and of course Schubert is one of the greatest things is the leader. He wrote so many, and everything he approaches the piano is so song-like, and it's just so beautiful. And actually, what really got me into Schubert when I was at Eastman were two programs. Number one, when I heard Richard Good come, and he did the C minor posthumous and the A major posthumous in the same program, with some Mozart and some Debussy. Took all the repeats, and I was on my edge of my seat for the whole time. It was truly transforming because I was not a big Schubert fan at that time. I remember I heard the B-flat sonata in high school, and I do not remember the pianist, thank goodness, because I would not want to say who it was, but I was bored out of my mind. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most boring piece in the world.
Yeah.
But after I heard Richard Good play them, I was like, wow, this is, and the funny thing is I did not gravitate towards the C minor or the A major after that. For some reason, I wanted to do the B flat.
Yeah.
But, and that's actually the last time I played it once in college. And then another just quick thing is when I had the great privilege of seeing my teacher, Barry Snyder, do Winterreise with Hermann Prey.
Mm.
And Hermann Prey was close, I think it was a year or two before he passed away, and it was, again, just transformative.
And Winterreise is one of the great song cycles that Schubert wrote.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but Schubert wrote over 1,500 works.
Yes,
which is
that's right. He wrote
incredible considering he lived to be 31.
Yeah.
So we're both like older.
Well, just a little bit for
just a couple years older than Schubert, which is both inspiring and depressing at the same time, I guess you could say. But he wrote over 600 songs.
Yeah, that's right.
As well. And so he kind of revolutionized art song and setting poetry to music and incorporating the piano specifically in a really creative and expressive way. The piano is just as important. Right?
Yeah, where the piano emulates things like in the Erlkönig you hear the horse hoofs, and then of course the spinning wheel you hear. It's just amazing what he does with the accompaniments. And I mean, you could really, I mean, obviously there was Lieder before him, with Mozart, Beethoven, but he really is. Most people would say he is the inventor of the Lied as we know it today.
And so you're playing a really special collection of, I think, some of his greatest works. The Frühlingsglaube. Frühling in German means spring, and I was going to read the poetry, but I forgot to put it on my phone, so I can't do that now. But
unfortunately, I cannot do it by memory, so I probably should be able to. But
it's really an incredible poem about like spring and like the new hope that it brings. So I thought, like, I mean, reading it, like, I almost broke down because it's like. It describes this time that, we're going through almost to a T, and equating it with spring and like the new life that kind of evokes. And so, and then the other two get progressively more dark.
Just slightly. Yeah. Especially the Erlkönig, just slightly.
The next one,
the Gretchen on Spinnrade.
Gretchen at her spinning wheel, and this comes from the great work Goethe's Faust, which is kind of an iconic work in the Romantic period.
Yes. Yeah.
So many people were inspired by it. In a way, Goethe was like created musical romanticism, I think, with this work.
And Schubert was, I believe, only 17 years old when he...
17 years old. This is like one of his first masterpieces.
And in the Erlkönig, I think he was 18, so very, very early works.
Yeah, and so throughout that song, like you said, you hear the spinning wheel, that constant movement of notes. And then Liszt did something with it. So these are all transcriptions by Liszt, because obviously we don't have a singer here.
Right. I mean, you could literally sing through the piece and be with the piano the way that he did them. But I must say the Erlkönig is a bit different in the fact that there's a section near the end where he does a big, massive retard, which is not in the score. And then at the end, he writes il più presto possibile, so basically as fast as possible. And then he actually...
Don't you love seeing that as a pianist?
But the funny thing is he changes the triplets to duples so you can go much faster, which again, that's not in the original score. But and of course he adds a lot of frilly stuff in the Frühlingsglaube, things like that.
Yeah. And the Erlkönig, so Gretchen is about kind of, I don't know, unrequited love. It's a fated love that they're talking about in Gretchen. So, she's thinking about him while she's at her spinning wheel, and she gets more impassioned as she thinks more, and the
And
spinning wheel goes faster and faster.
the kiss.
And the
and then
kiss happens.
And then it stops, and you hear the spinning wheel starting up again.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great
yeah.
moment. And then in the Erlkönig, that's one of the most creepy poems.
Yeah, with four, you've got what, narrator, the Erlkönig, the boy, and the father.
Yeah.
So four characters in that, which is
And to
pretty
give
amazing.
people perspective, there's a father riding through the forest at night with his son behind him. And the son keeps saying, I think the elf king is after me. He wants to steal me away. And the elf king how is the elf king represented in the music?
It goes into major,
Yeah.
B flat major, and then C major, and it's higher. So
It's always in a major
yeah,
key,
and he's
right?
seducing the boy.
So
With ideas. Oh, come play games with me. I mean, it's really
really
amazing.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
then
the
you hear
elf
the
king
father, of course, in a lower voice. And I mean, it's a brilliant piece of music for an 18-year-old.
I know. He had so much like psychological maturity for an 18-year-old. And the
Yeah.
amazing story about this piece was that Schubert was relatively unknown at the time. He was like 18, and he said, "Oh, screw it! I'll send it to a publisher." So he sends it to Breitkopf und Härtel,
Yes,
which is still in existence.
Oh, yeah.
Like one of the oldest and most well-respected publishers in the world.
Yeah.
And they don't even, they look at it once and they're like, what is this? And they send it back to the only Franz Schubert they know, which is a different Franz Schubert who is a composer in Dresden. Dresden Franz Schubert receives the Erlkönig, and he's like, what is this? And he's offended. He says, this is trash, and why did you think that I composed this? And it becomes one of the most iconic song masterpieces of the 19th century.
Yeah.
So
it's quickly one of the reasons we decided to do the B flat Schubert, and so I wanted to add something at the beginning. And I decided to do some Liszt transcriptions, so these are obviously very brand new.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you for learning them such quick.
Yes, and what I must say is, like, I decided, I was looking through a bunch, and I said, oh, okay, I'll do Frühlingsglaube and Erlkönig. And so I sent you a text saying, and then, I don't know, a little bit like a week later or so, you said, what about the Gretchen? And I sat there and I thought, oh boy. I actually looked at it and was considering it, but it looked like a bit too much trouble. But since you brought it up, I'm like, oh, he brought it up. I really need to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's
Well, thank you for doing that, and
my pleasure.
I'll say a prayer for you.
Okay, I may need it with these.
Looking forward to it. Well, it's not too shabby for, what is it, a month?
For the, yeah,
Like,
for a month, the first time out.
yeah, first performance. It's kind of weird. It's surreal, like playing in a live stream. I mean, like we have a couple people here, but like
Right, yeah.
you don't get the same kind of feedback, you know, from the audience.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's just, again, showing us what we're missing so much throughout this past year,
Yeah.
that when you're in front of a live audience, you really, you play off the emotions of the audience. It's like an ebb and a flow, and you can feel your audience can feel you, hopefully.
Right, yeah.
And what you're expressing, and you just feel that connection, and it becomes like, no matter how big the hall, it's just this, you become one, and it hopefully becomes a transcendent kind of experience. And when you're in a situation like this and you've got cameras and mics and that's your audience, it's really hard to have the same kind of, musical experience, and who are you communicating to?
Yeah.
You don't feel that direct communication like you would.
Yeah, that's the kind of the point of live performance. It's almost like you're speaking something of yourself to your audience that they wouldn't get from.
Yeah, I mean,
You're having a
our art
conversation.
form is all about communication.
Yeah.
Communicative art form. Now, obviously, like with these songs, if you were to sing them, I wouldn't say much easier, but I mean, it's easier to sort of know what you're communicating because you actually have words.
Right.
I mean, unless you're singing Rachmaninoff's vocalese,
Yeah.
normally you actually have text.
Yeah.
And whether the audience understands it or not, depending on the language, you still have usually translations or whatnot. But you, as the performer, well, you better know what you're singing about.
Yeah.
So that's the idea: is you actually have words to communicate. And when doing absolute music, like obviously the following piece will be, you don't have that. But I feel like it has to be as communicative emotionally as if we did have words.
Absolutely. So Schubert, he had an interesting life. As I said,
Unfortunate life, yes.
a quite unfortunate life.
At the end.
He was born into a relatively poor family. His father did direct a school, which he ended up having to teach for, like actually grade school that he ended up having to teach for 3 years, hated every second of it.
And he had played in a quartet with the family, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
his father, and I believe some of his other siblings were, his brother was his first piano
I can't
teacher.
remember,
And he was the 12th of 14 children. And this tells you something about how hard life was back then.
Yeah.
14 children, but 5 survived infancy. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine these days. But he felt that, he even said, I think, that he was born to compose. Like he was put on this world to compose. He never tried to do anything else really seriously. Other composers of the day like Liszt and Chopin, even Schumann tried to be a virtuoso pianist, and
Right.
Schubert never attempted that.
Right.
He knew right away that he wanted to create music. And as I said, like his output was staggering, and a lot of those 1,500 works that I mentioned earlier, like there's symphonies, there's
Right.
string quartets, 22 piano sonatas,
Right.
like 15 operas, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, they're really never done, but
I don't think they're that great.
yeah, I mean, every once in a while you see someone put one on, but it's
Yeah.
they're not well known in the.
I think
as
he
far as
felt very strongly that if he composed a successful opera, that was the pathway to becoming a really famous and successful composer. And it wasn't his style.
It wasn't him, yeah.
But yeah, he was also like personally, I mean, there's not a whole lot known from, back like documentary evidence. Most of it is like accounts of friends and people who, gave out that information after he had become famous after his death. And but we do know that he was very short.
Yeah, barely over 5 feet, I think.
Yeah, barely over 5 feet. He was kind of fat. In fact, his I shouldn't use that word. I guess fat it's not correct anymore. But he was a big person, and And he had a German nickname, which I found
Oh, right.
rather offensive. It was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it means tubby.
Yes, right,
It was
exactly.
like the German word for tubby.
That's right, yeah.
I have to brush up on my German.
That is correct.
But
I've forgotten that.
yeah, all those things were pretty unfortunate. He had a lot of unrequited love in his life.
Yeah.
And not much is known about his personal life other than, he didn't get married, but he had a very tight-knit circle of friends who believed very strongly in him, even if sometimes he was, I think, a bit mistrustful of his friends and very sensitive and, he didn't always believe that people were on his side or something. There was some kind of paranoia, I think, that he had in regards to friendship, but he had these close friends that they were so in with his, his genius that they became known as Schubertians, and they threw these parties which were called Schubertiads. Yes. And he liked to party, and so these were like really festive occasions, happened quite often with some of the more prominent musicians in Vienna at that time. And he would come home in the middle of the night pretty drunk, often going to sleep with his spectacles still on, and wake up at 9 every morning, compose till 2 p.m., and then go out on the town again. So this piece that you're going to play, this is his last sonata. One of his last works, period. Yeah. The output at the end was amazing. The last couple months or less, the last 3 piano sonatas, I think it's possibly the greatest chamber piece written, as I nicknamed it, the cello quintet. The great C major, because you have 2 cellos, the C major quintet, and some of the last symphony. Yeah. But I mean, the cello quintet. And it's funny, you hear a lot of similarities between, I think, the cello quintet and particularly the B-flat sonata. But the B-flat sonata, for me, it's just beyond sublime. I don't know what to say about this work of music. It is from another world. It seems like the music of someone who is like at least twice his age. Yes. He has that level of maturity. As I said before, psychological maturity. There's definitely a psychological element to his music. Sonata form, of course, is a dramatic form. It's one of the most dramatic forms. There's a cast of characters, the exposition of themes. Usually there's at least 2. Yes, he has many. Contrasting themes. And then we hear them twice, and then they're developed in certain ways, like put into other harmonic and textural context. And then there's a return. Right. So although you may not always hear those things listening to a piece for the first time, they are there, and I think that affects our experience hearing this music. But what I mean by psychological element is just the great conflict of different things. Like the first theme is almost like a hymn-like quality. Yeah. And then right away we get something in the left hand that kind of
crazy trill.
Yeah, it's
ominous trill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this beautiful thing is then interrupted by something very menacing underneath.
And even at the very beginning, you hear a little bit of the da-dee-da-da-da. You hear a little bit with that E natural, that little dissonance at the,
I never even noticed that.
Points that out a bit, and then you have the ominous trill. Yeah. Which is, There
are things like that all the way through that play into the music, but best thing to do is just to listen to it, right?
Nice short little work.
Yeah, nice short little work. 4 movements. They all have something really
unique.
Yeah, really special. So you played this piece before, but it was like in college. What's different about your experience now? Later on.
Wow. Just everything I've gone through in life with family and and even musically with who I've played with, different singers. I guess mostly thinking of singers when you talk about Schubert. but just hopefully just myself maturing as a musician and as a person.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can ever separate the music from the person,
Yeah.
and the performer from the person. It's all one and together. You never want to be separate from that instrument that you're playing. You have to become, as a singer, it's great, you are your instrument.
Yeah.
We have this huge black thing away from us, but we have to embrace it, and that's a sort of become part of us. You know, a violin you're holding, a cello you're really holding, wind instruments you're blowing something into it. I think the piano is the hardest in a way to make it part of us.
Yeah.
It's just too easy for it to be something distant.
Yeah.
And I think just to, especially with a piece like this, it really has to, you have to become one with the instrument and one with the composer.
That's something I've always admired about you, is that you've always sought to become more engaged with the piano, even just physically. And I think this piece really benefits from that, maybe even more so than others. And as you said, you know, it's one thing for a great composer to create a masterpiece, but it takes someone who can kind of live and breathe that work to bring it to life.
Yeah, like
they rely on us, like it or not.
Yeah, like the comment I made earlier when I mentioned hearing Richard Good play the other two posthumous, and it was almost life altering for me. At least the way I thought of Schubert, I'm like, wow, this is a whole nother world. You know,
this could be a life altering experience for someone out there. You never know. I mean, I say that kind of coyly, but also it could be true. So, and that's the great thing about music and live performance.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
To your performance.
I hope you enjoy this. Like I said, I don't know what to say about this work. It's beyond belief.
Well, let's listen to it.
You're on.
All right. Sorry, guys. We lost some miking capabilities there. But I just want to say another quick thank you to Craig Ketter for being with us. And please join us on May 11th, which is our next performance. Details will be available soon at claytonpianofestival.org, on our social media platforms. If you feel so inspired by tonight's performance, please feel free to donate at claytonpianofestival.org. There's a PayPal link there, or you can choose to send us a check in the mail. The mailing address is in the video description below. Thank you again for joining us, and please have a safe and healthy night. I'll see you very soon.